Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. Darth Bane, creator of the Rule of Two, the Sith'ari, the chosen being destined to destroy the Sith, only to rebuild them stronger than before. The former Cortosis miner named Dessel began his journey with the Sith as a foot soldier in the Sith army and would rise to power to become one of the greatest, most influential Sith the galaxy has ever seen. And while I do plan on making a video discussing Bane's journey from humble miner to the chosen one of the Sith, today we are going to cover a key element of Darth Bane, that being his Orbalisk armor. Now, when we think of armor, we typically think of something that you can slip in and out of for protection in battle, such as chainmail, clone, or stormtrooper armor, or perhaps even Darth Vader's suit. However, the Orbalisk armor was far from that. Bane didn't have a choice in being encased in this suit, and as a matter of fact, if he wasn't careful, it very well could have killed him. Bane was always interested in Sith knowledge, the wisdom of those that came before. Bane sought power and would do anything to achieve it, to fulfill his destiny. His research and travels led him to the jungle-like moon of Xun, one of the moons orbiting the world of Onderon. Bane would trek through the jungles until he finally found an ancient temple, a pyramid structure, the final resting place of the Sith Frida Nad. As Bane began exploring the temple, he saw evidence that someone had been there before him, and doubt began to settle in that he would find nothing but an empty tomb. His frustration mounting, he finally found something. A chamber, a small door carved into the wall, blocked by a tightly fitted slab of black stone. It would take all of the strength and the force that Darth Bane had to move the stone out of his way, but he finally managed to do so. Bane had to crouch down and squeeze his massive frame through the tight doorway. However, on the other side, though the room was so dark it was lit only by his glow rod, there was something else. In the high-ceiling chamber, on a pedestal at its center, a small crystal pyramid rested, a Sith holocron. But before the Sith Lord could reach it, due to the light emanating from his glow rod, he could make out movement on the surface above his head. His eyes would finally adjust to the dim light, and he could make out small crustaceans clinging to the ceiling above. Bane became amazed as two of the creatures fell towards him, and while he swatted one away with his lightsaber, it didn't kill it. In fact, the blade didn't even leave a scratch. Bane sensed that he was in great danger and made a move for the holocron. He clutched the crystal pyramid in his hand as the small crustaceans began falling from the ceiling all around him. He tried his best to fight them off, but there were simply too many of them, and he became overwhelmed quickly. One of the creatures fell onto his shoulder, burning through his armor and clothes with an acidic secretion, and Bane felt thousands of tiny teeth clamping onto his skin as the acid burned through his flesh. He struggled to dislodge the creature, only to have another fall onto the center of his chest. Bane was in unbelievable pain. He was finally able to unleash a wave of force energy, which sent the creatures hurtling back and gave Bane enough of a break that he was finally able to squeeze back through the small opening of the chamber and onto the other side. Bane somehow managed to summon enough energy to send the stone slab crashing back to the doorway, trapping the rest of the creatures inside and saving his own life. He lay on the ground, tremendous pain coursing through his body. However, he was still clutching the holocron in his hand. Thanks to his new prize, the holocron, Bane learned that these creatures were called Orbalisks, and through his own trial and error, discovered that they could not be removed. Desperate, he would even try carving his own skin around the Orbalisks just to get it loose from his body, but nothing worked. The acid the creatures were secreting made Bane's blood boil. The pain was great, but there were miraculously strong benefits as well. He developed a great healing ability. He felt stronger, with keener senses and quicker reflexes. Bane realized that this newfound relationship was symbiotic. He would be forced to endure great pain, yes, but he considered it a price to pay for his new powers he was granted, as well as the impenetrable Orbalisk shells serving as protection against a lightsaber blade. Bane would continue to learn from the holocron about these creatures, such as, if one somehow did manage to be killed, it would release a deadly toxin into its host which would ultimately kill him. Also, the Orbalisks would continue to spread until they covered the body from head to toe, but thankfully Bane was provided with a blueprint to build a special helmet which would keep the Orbalisks from spreading over his face, suffocating him. Finally, after days of studying the holocron of Frida Nad, Bane found his way off of the moon and set out to be reunited with his apprentice Darth Zana. Bane would be encased in this Orbalisk armor for 10 years. To make a long story short, after all these years, Bane began wondering if the Orbalisks were holding him back and doing much more harm than good, as he was experiencing negative effects that he believed were from the creatures. He even sent his apprentice Darth Zana to the Jedi Temple in an attempt to discover a way of removing them, perhaps unknown to Frida Nad or himself even after a decade. Things, however, didn't go entirely to plan, as Zana was followed by a group of Jedi back to Bane after she actually encountered her cousin, who she had not seen in years, at the Jedi Temple, a young man named Daravit. This led to a fierce battle in which the two Sith developed the upper hand. Bane moved in to kill the Jedi Johun Oton using Force Lightning. However, one of the other Jedi who had been wounded used a Force Bubble which would deflect the lightning back to Bane himself, frying Bane and killing the Orbalisks. Though as a result, the Orbalisks released their deadly toxin into Bane's body, and it would be only a matter of time before he was killed. Zana killed the remaining Jedi and made their way to Ambria to seek the aid of a healer there named Caleb that Zana had once encountered in the past. However, Caleb would only agree to help on one condition. Darth Zana must turn her and her master Bane over to the Jedi. Zana would agree and send a message to the Jedi Temple informing them of her and Bane's presence on Ambria. Bane awoke days later, free of the Orbalisks covering his body and cured of their poison coursing through his veins. Caleb of Ambria was perhaps unlike anyone Bane had ever seen, a true healer, a miracle worker. The creatures that Bane had been trapped underneath for 10 years, once thought to be impossible to remove, were gone. However, Bane would soon be asking his apprentice to take his life still, as she told him what she had done, and Bane wished to be spared from being a prisoner of the Jedi. Zana would have other plans. She killed Caleb, used her powers of Sith sorcery to drive her own cousin Daravit mad. Zana would then hide herself and her master inside Caleb's hut, and when the Jedi arrived to Ambria, they found the young man Daravit, who they assumed was the Sith. Daravit, in his madness, attacked the Jedi, but was killed in the process. The Jedi would believe that they had eliminated the last of the Sith. Meanwhile, Zana and Bane would be free to escape after the Jedi's departure. Zana made Darth Bane, the sith'ari, a proud master that day. As I've said in previous videos, I cannot recommend the Darth Bane trilogy of books enough. They're my favorite Star Wars books, and if you're interested, the story of Bane and the Orbalisk armor begins in the second book of the trilogy, appropriately titled Rule of Two. I do plan on covering more of Bane's history in future videos, specifically his journey from a Cortosis miner to one of the greatest Sith who ever lived, so be on the lookout for those. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know others that you would like to see in the future, and may the Force be with you always.